Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is Bava Metzia daf Lamed Hey. It's amazing how much progress you can make when you go daf Lamed Hey 35a. When you go day by day and accomplish a little bit every day, you can get so much done. What how powerful the lesson of daf yomi is, not just for daf yomi, but for every aspect of our life. If we want to make something better, just to work at it a little bit each day. Don't feel like you need to do it all in one shot. You can do it little by little. So let's all take that to heart as we, let me share my screen and we will get started. So today, yesterday, I guess, we ended with a question. His question was not a simple question. The question took up essentially the second half of Lamed Daled and Bet. So let's go through what that question was. So our Mishnah had said that if a watcher decided to pay for an item rather than swear that he should not be liable, the watcher effectively becomes the owner. So again, somebody gave me, this computer to watch. An armed robber comes in and takes it away from me. And I was not a paid watcher. I'm not going to be liable for this if I swear that an armed robber came in and took it away from me. But I don't like to take, I don't even like to use God's name. And so as a result, I don't want to make the oath. Well, that's okay. I don't have to make the oath, but I have to pay for the computer. Now, what happens? Now, actually, that was a bad example because an armed robber doesn't have to pay the double penalty. But let's say instead of an armed robber, somebody came in the middle of the night and stole it from me, and I was, I was careful. I had it in a locked safe, and the person picked the safe, and I did everything that a normal person would do to take care of and protect it. Again, I would not be liable. But if I pay for it, and now we find the thief, and the thief does not admit that he stole it, so he's going to be subject to the double penalty. And so I bring witnesses, and they say that we saw this guy steal the computer, and now I get to keep the double penalty, even though it belonged to you, the computer. I'm going to get to the double penalty because again, we're going to treat me as if I became the owner. All right. So now Rav Huna, however, noted a concern in this whole situation. Because what happens if I say to you, "Ooh, that's a beautiful computer," and you say, "And I'd love to buy it from you," and you say back, "No, I don't want to sell it," and then I say, "You know what? Why don't I watch it for you?" And then you come back for it 3 days later, and I say, "Listen, I'm really sorry, but thieves came into my house in the middle of the night and they stole it. Let me just pay you for it." And now, of course, 2 days later, oh, here it is. Now I have it, but I get to keep it because I bought it from you. So what a great way for me to force a sale from you. So Rav Huna is pretty concerned about that. And so as a result, Rav Huna says that even when the person doesn't have to swear for the underlying activities, that he doesn't have to swear that it was in fact stolen from him, he does have to, and that he wasn't negligent. He's still going to have to swear that he doesn't have it in his possession. And so that's what we learned yesterday. Now, after having learned that yesterday, we quoted a long Mishnah that seems to suggest that maybe we don't administer such an oath. So the Mishnah listed 4 cases of a borrower who gave collateral to a lender who lost the collateral. Again, so I'll be the borrower, Stan will be the lender. I gave Stan this laptop as collateral for $1,000 loan. This is a beautiful laptop. Okay, but now we're going to see how much is it worth. So now Stan has lost my laptop, and he says the laptop was worth $500, and I say no, it wasn't. It was worth $1,000. So then everybody agrees. The Mishnah says no oath is required, because when do we require a biblical oath? That's in a case of what is known as moda b'miktzah. Somebody has admitted to a partial admission. But in this case, we're all agreeing that you effectively were paid through the computer. You say that you were paid half. I say that you were paid in whole. So that means I'm saying to you that I owe you nothing. And therefore, there's no biblical oath associated with that. On the other hand, if again, Stan now says that the laptop was worth 500, but I say no, it was worth 750. So, even if according to me, I would still owe Stan $250. So I have to swear that in fact that the laptop was only worth 750. That an oath is required. And we're going to see, even though I said that I'm going to swear, we're going to change it in a moment. Now, what is about the third case in the Mishnah is now this laptop is souped up laptop. And I go to you, Stan, and say, this laptop wasn't worth $1,000. It was worth $2,000. And so as a result, you owe me $1,000 because you lost the laptop, right? You admit that you lost the laptop and that you're liable associated for that. So now I tell but you tell me no, it was worth $1,000. So now I'm effectively the claimant. You are the debtor, and so as a result, you've denied owing anything, and so as a result, no oath is required according to the Mishnah. And then the fourth case was, again, I claim that the laptop that I gave to you as collateral was worth $2,000 for my $1,000 loan. And you say it wasn't worth $2,000, it was worth $1,250. Well, even your $1,250 comment, it means that you're admitting that you owe me $250. The difference between the $1,000 loan that I borrowed from you and the value of my laptop. So in that situation, you're going to need to swear I'm going to need to swear in order to avoid having, you're going to need to swear, you're going to need to swear because you're the lender to avoid having to pay me no, you're going to pay, you admit that the 250, whether the other 750, are you going to have to pay me this other 750? You're going to have to swear in order to do that. Now, the Mishnah then concluded by adjusting what we would ordinarily say in a moda b'miktzah's case, and generally in a moda b'miktzah's case, the person who is denying part of the debt is the one who swears. And the Mishnah says that the lender swears in all of these cases because he's holding the deposit. So explaining that we don't want the other party to swear and then produce the collateral. Because look what happens if you're the lender, I am the borrower. Again, you say that my computer was worth $500. I say it was worth $750. So I'm admitting to you that I owe you $250. So now I'm going to swear that it was worth $750. Well, listen what you say you lost the laptop. But what you can do then is you bring it out and you were really tricking. And you say, here's a laptop. It's really worth $500. What ends up happening to me? I can no longer make oaths in court because I've been turned into a liar. I've lied under oath. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want to make it so easy to disprove somebody. And so as a result, the Mishnah says that in that situation, instead of me swearing, you're going to swear. And Shmuel says exactly that the case where we said in the Mishnah that we were quoting, that the person, that the lender swears because he's holding the deposit, it's talking about case number 2, where Stan says that the laptop that I gave him as collateral was worth $500. I say it was worth $750. So even though I'm effectively denying half of the amount that Stan says I owe him, because he's saying that I owe you $500, and I'm saying I only owe you $250. And usually the person who's denying, who's doing moda b'miktzah, is the one who swears. Here, Stan is going to swear because Stan is the one who was holding the deposit. Okay, so, but the problem is, if Rav Huna was correct that the court administers an oath to a watcher, and here Stan is effectively a watcher because he's holding the laptop as collateral, that says that Stan doesn't have the laptop, well, then why do we need to move the oath from me to Stan? Why are we worried that Stan's going to bring out the laptop and show what its actual value is when Stan has to swear that it's not, that he doesn't even have it? So as we pick up on the last word of the second line of Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, the Gemara is now going to offer three answers. So a long introduction to get to where we are in the Gemara. So Amar Rava, sheyesh edim shenisrafa. Oh, we're gonna give three tries. We're gonna have four tries, three real answers. So the first answer is offered by Rava. We're gonna end up having to offer a modification of it because it doesn't quite work. But let's see what he says. He says that it's actually where we're dealing with the case where the witnesses saw that it was burned up, saw that the laptop was, a God forbid, in a fire and got burned up, got destroyed. So ihachi meheka maisila. Well, one second. If it's destroyed by a fire, where is our concern that Stan is going to show the laptop and show that I'm lying? He can't do that. So Ella Amar of Yosef sheyesh edim shenignava. So let's modify it. It's not that it was burned; it was that it was stolen. And so now we know that it isn't in the lender's possession anymore, and that's why there's no oath associated with it. But one second, so if it's true that it was stolen from Stan, so then how is Stan going to show me the laptop in order to contradict my oath? So the Tarach he's going to work hard to figure out who he's going to do it, because Stan in his spare time is a part-time detective, and he'll look at who came to see him and who knew about the laptop and when that it was in his safe, and he'll figure out who it was that stole it, and he'll go and be able to get it back. So v'hachi ki mishtaba malva nami litrak lova. Say, well, second, but if that's true that it was stolen from Stan, and now Stan is going to swear about the value, but if I know that I'm right, won't I, as the borrower, also go and work hard in order to try and bring the laptop and show and find the thief and recover it so that I can show that Stan was lying? No, that doesn't quite work, right? Why doesn't the borrower work hard to try and find it? So Bishlam Amalva, no, it makes sense when you deal with the lender that he has the ability to go and find the thief, because Yadaman he knows who's been inside his house, who's gone in and who's gone out. And so he'll go and figure out who it is and he'll bring it back. But Elalova, the borrower, namely me, do I know who goes in and out of Stan's house? Of course not. I don't know. I'm not keeping eyes on his home. I don't have we don't have video systems at that time. And even in modern days, I'm still, that would probably be illegal. So I wouldn't do it. So the point is that that's answer number one. So the answer number one is that the reason that we don't impose, that there's no reference to Rav Huna's oath by the watcher about not having it, is because we already know that it's not in the watcher's possession. So Abaye offers a second possibility. No, we're worried. Yes, in fact, maybe we should bother. Maybe Stan should make that oath. But that oath is not enough. That if we have Stan make the oath that it's not in his possession, we still don't want me to make the swear that this computer was really worth $750 and not $500. Because if I swear, even though Stan did in fact swear that he didn't have it in his possession, maybe Shema Yitum V'Yomerlo Achar Shavua Mitzasiya. He's going to say that after I swore that I didn't have it, I found it. I didn't know it was in my possession. I didn't know where I left it. And so as a result, he'll be able to contradict me, and we don't want that to happen. So that's answer number two. Answer number three is offered by Ravashi. Ravashi Amar, Zen Nishba v'Zen Nishba. Really? No. When we're saying that people swear, everybody's swearing. And when we say that the Modav Metzia swears, it's the one who it partially admits, meaning I am going to have to swear that the laptop was worth $750 and not $500 as Stan claims. But Zen Nishba She'ena Birshuso, Stan is going to swear that it's not in his possession. Zen Nishba Kama Hayashava, and I have to swear how much it was worth. And this is what the Mishnah is actually saying. Mi nishba tchila Who is it that swears first? Malva nishbetchila. That's who the lender swears first, meaning that the lender who's holding it in his possession swears the oath that Rav Huna says he needs to make. That's the oath that he's going to swear first. All right, so Sema Yisha because we're worried that I, on the other hand, will swear. Yotzi Hala as Habikadon, and then Stan will take out the collateral. And so as a result, that's how we're going to have that. Actually, we can understand the Mishnah exactly as it's written, but it's not saying when we said at the end of the Mishnah that the concluding statement that the lender swears, it's saying the lender swears first the oath of Rav Huna, the oath of Rav Huna that he says that he doesn't have it, and only then do we allow the borrower to swear in the Moda B'Miktzah's case. Okay, so next, so now continuing the discussion of Rav Huna's ruling that the person who's watching something has to swear, even if he's volunteering to pay for it, he has to swear that it's no longer in his possession. So we're going to use one of the other cases from the Mishnah, from the 4 cases of that Mishnah that we quoted, to challenge Rav Huna. So Rav Huna bar Tachlifa, and it's interesting that who is it that's challenging him? Rav Huna bar Tachlifa, a different Rav Huna. So Mishmei de Rabba Amar. So he said in the name of Rabba, Reisha de Seifa, the 3rd case, the first of the last 2 cases, to Yov to Rav Huna, seems to be a contradiction to Rav Huna, because what did we say there? Stella Hivisani Alav, you lent me a Sella, based on this collateral, Shtayim Hayashova. And you lent, but the collateral that I gave you was worth 2 Sellas, so it was worth $2,000, not $1,000. Vahala Omer lo kiela Sella elvisicha alav Sella Hayashova, and the lender Stan says back, no, the $1,000 that I lent you was equal to the value of the computer that you gave me. So putter, we say in that situation that nobody has to make any kind of oath. But one second. The im isa the Rav Huna, if Rav Huna is actually accurate, that Stan has to make the oath of a watcher who no longer has something and wants to pay for it because so he's swearing that it's no longer in his possession. Migo de mishtaba malva she'ena b'shuso. Since he's already swearing that it's no longer in his possession, lishtaba nami a gilgul shvua. Let him have a Gilgal Shvua. A Gilgal Shvua, Gilgal means rolling, that once you're doing one thing on him, there's this concept of having a second oath applied. Kama Hayashava. He should swear how much it's worth. And Rashi helps us out here. So we take a look at the 6th narrow line in Rashi on Lamed Heyam and Aleph. The Taina She'ein Ba Shvua, that when we say in this Mishnah that there's no Shvua, Im Tana Sheyesh Ba Shvua, but 1 second. But how can we say that if there is a Shvua, Milgalgan Alav Shmua Lishba? He should actually Al-Shtayan. He should actually come and swear about both topics. He should swear both about the fact that he no longer owns it, and once he's swearing about the fact that he no longer owns it, he should also swear about the fact that that how much it was worth. Because the Gilgal Shvua de Oraisa he Kedushin, because we learned back in Maseches Kedushin, Daf Kav Zayin Amabet, that in fact this is something that this is something. Sorry, I scrolled too fast. This is something that is a biblical oath, and so as a result, certainly it should be recognized in our Mishnah. So Amar Rav Ashi explains Amrisa Lishmaita Kamei de Rav Kahana. I referenced this question to Rav Kahana, and he gave me the answer. That the case that we're talking about is where the borrower trusts the lender. Okay, so the borrower trusts the lender when he says that it's no longer in his possession, and therefore doesn't require the lender to make that oath. The Nehemne Lova Lamalva. 1 second. Once we're having the borrower trust the lender, why not have him trust the lender? Nami baha kama habashava. Why not let him trust? Why is he only trusting Why am I only trusting Stan? Again, Stan lent me $1,000 based on my computer, and I say that my computer was worth $2,000. Stan says it was worth $1,000, but he lost it. And we said in our Mishnah that Stan doesn't, nobody has to swear because Stan has denied all liability. But so why don't we have him swear a Gilgal Shvua? It's because I trust Stan. When Stan says he doesn't have it, I don't say, okay, you have to swear to that. No, I trust him. I say that he doesn't have to do it. And so then why do I trust him with respect to the fact that he denies having it any longer and not with respect to the value? Because lo kim le begabe. Because how long did Stan have the computer? I've had this computer for decades because it's a great old computer, and Stan has had it for 3 weeks, the 3 weeks that I borrowed the $1,000. So why, Stan won't have the same knowledge of this computer and the amazing things that it does. So Nehemne Malva. Well, 1 second. Well, given that I trust Stan to such a degree, why doesn't Stan trust me? Especially because he knows that I know this computer to Kim Le Bigabe, because he knows how familiar I am with the computer. So lo mehemen, like, Stan doesn't trust me, the borrower. Well, 1 second. This seems like a biased relationship. I have this great degree of trust in Stan, but Stan doesn't have the same degree, similar degree of trust in me. So why is that? So Lova Makayim Bava Tumas Yesharim Tanchem. That when it comes to the borrower, me, I'm trying to fulfill the pasuk. This is all one pasuk in Mishlei, that the perfection of the upright, the tumat, the perfection yesharim of those who are upright, tanchem, will enable them to have a good fortune, meaning that those who are wealthy on some level deserve it, according to Mishlei. And so as a result, that is the basis, that's the attitude that the borrower has. And Malva Makayim Be Belova Viselef Bogdim Yishadim. And on the other hand, the lender recognizes the other half of the pasuk that says that the perverseness of traders will plunder them, meaning that those who don't have on some level deserve not to have. So as a result, there may be a lack of trust, but at the same time, note here that despite that lack of trust, Stan has made the loan to me. So as a result, it's not about the actions that we have, but the attitudes. And so that what matters on some level is our actions. But then when it comes to the shvua, it's the attitudes that matter. And so as a result, given Stan's approach, I have to swear, but given my approach, I am not making Stan swear. Okay.
Is this talking about when we're saying one doesn't trust the other? Is it talking about the possession of the object, or is it talking about the value? The Gemara seems to say that it's about kama hava shava, which would be the second part of the shavua, the gilgul, and it's not talking only about whether he actually has the object in possession. They're discussing their trust regarding the value of the object.
So there are two parts to.
But I think you were stressing that he was talking about trust regarding making a shavua, whether he has it or not. That's the first part. The second part is actually the value. Nami kama hava shava.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how the value of the object because it's not his object. He never owned it.
Yeah, and you're exactly right that there are two parts, and those two parts are divided because I, as the borrower, am trusting Stan as the lender with respect to his claim of not having the item any longer. There I do have trust, and that's the trust that the borrower has in the lender. The trust that the lender does not have in the borrower is with respect to the valuation. So the trusts are not about the same thing. And as far as why I don't trust Stan with respect to the valuation, that's because of the lo kimle begave.
Right,
that
exactly.
Was the first question. Exactly. So that's the point.
I thought you were. I didn't think you focused on that. That's what when I'm listening to you.
No. So that was the first. The first thing that we covered is that I trust Stan with respect to whether or not he possesses it. Then we turn to whether or not the valuation,
Right.
and I don't trust Stan with respect to the valuation because he's not familiar with it, and
Right.
he doesn't trust me with respect to it because I'm poor, and as a result, God forbid, and I am, and therefore the principle of Beselef Bogdim Yishadem, it would apply to me, and so as a result, he feels that I would need to swear.
Right.
Okay.
But
Great, great.
I did.
Then we're all on the same page.
Right.
Hahu gabra da afkid kibe gabe chavre. So somebody left some jewelry with his friend Amrle Havli Gabe. So the guy asked him for the jewelry. So Amrle lo yadana hecha osvinu. I don't know where I put him. I'm so sorry. So Asul Kamed Rav Nachman. So it all came in front of Rav Nachman. Amrle kol lo yadana pshiyusahi. If you don't know, that's pretty negligent. So Zil Shalom, go pay the guy. Lo Shilim, but he refused to pay. Azul Rav Nachman, Agbe Ba'apande Mine. So they ended up seizing his home from him, his mansion. Lasof Ishtakak Kepe. Eventually, the earrings were found, the jewelry was found. The Iyakor. And now you know what? The jewelry was worth more than the home. You can imagine it was some kind of jewelry. So Amar Rav Nachman, Hadri Kefi Lamarayu, Bahadra Apanda Lamara, you go return the earrings to the jewelry to the regular owner, to the original owner, and you return them the mansion to the original owner. So that way, so basically, Rav Nachman is saying that even though the watcher ended up paying for the jewelry, he doesn't get to the appreciation of the jewelry. So that seems to contradict our Mishnah. So Amarava, Haviyasvina, Yasivna, Kamed Rav Nachman. I was sitting in front of Rav Nachman, Ufirkin Hamakid Ava, and I asked about when we were studying Hamakid, this chapter of Metzia, Amrile, and I said to him, Shilim lo ratza lishava. What about the situation where somebody who pays because he didn't want to swear? Isn't that the same kind of situation as Rav Nachman's situation with the mansion? And so shouldn't the appreciation of the earrings go to the former owner of the mansion who paid for the earrings? Below a hadarly. And you know what? He didn't even answer me. But you know what? He wanted me to figure it out. And it was right that he didn't answer it because I was able to figure it out. My time, what's the reason? It's because in that situation in the Mishnah, what did I do when I say that I'm going to pay you, and instead of swearing, I'm not bothering the Beis Din. I'm making it an easy case to the Beis Din. Because I'm admitting that I'm going to pay, and I'm doing the payment easily. But Haga Atruche Lebeidina. Here, the Beis Din made the person who didn't pay for the jewelry made Rav Nachman work for it. So as a result, he troubled the Beis Din, and so as a result, the owner does not actually give him any rights to additional revenue if the actual item is found. So Lamemra, the Sava of Nachman, the Shuma Hadar. Well, 1 second. Does that mean to say that when it comes to property that has been assessed, and thereby seized by Beis Din, that it has to be returned by the back to the debtor if the debtor comes up with the money? So again, as an example, I borrow $1,000 from Stan, and now but I don't, I'm unable to pay up. And so I give Stan a field that's worth $1,000. But then I am able to get the money together. And I come to Stan and I say, I want my field back. Here's the $1,000 that I owe you. Because remember, I'm not allowed to pay interest. So the point is that I can pay $1,000 at some point in the future. And we say that, you know what? And the concept of the Shuma Hadar is that Stan has to give back the property to me. So no, we don't have to say that. In fact, the Rav Nachman's case implies that the owner that Stan would need to return the property to me when I pay him for it, because maybe it's different. Shiny Hasam, the Shuma Betos Hava. There, in the case where the person refused to pay for the jewelry, it was a mistake, meaning he had the jewelry the entire time. Because he had the jewelry from the beginning. And so as a result, he shouldn't have had to pay. He should have given back the jewelry. So in that situation, maybe the law was different. Now, but let's say, what is the law in connection with returning this seized property if the debtor comes back with the money? So Amri Nahardai, and the people in Nahardai said Shuma Hadar ad tresar yarke shata, that actually you have to wait, give the 12 months to the debtor to come up with the money, and then he can get back his property. And Amemar went further. I'm from Narda, and yet Usfira Li Shuma Hadar La'olam. Really, the property gets returned forever. You have as long as you want to return the property. And you know what the halacha is? The Gemara tells us Shuma Hadar La'olam. Actually, the property can be returned for as long as is necessary, and you get as much time as necessary in order to get back the property. Why? Because you should do what is right and good. And what is right and good in this situation is if, after all, you're getting the $1,000 in cash that you wanted, you have to, and we don't charge interest. So the fact that it's taken longer doesn't matter. The bottom line is you've got the money that you deserve. You should give back the property to
its owner. The debtor says, well, the land now is worth more than the 1,000.
Yeah,
you want me to give back the land, you give me the difference between the
no, that's tough luck. That's exactly right. That's tough luck on the creditor. The creditor ends up losing in that situation. Now, what can the creditor do? So, I think in part to lessen the harshness of this, we now have 4 rules that are related to this situation. So, rule number 1. Pshita Shamulei Labalchov, that if in fact it was Stan seized my property and got it from me. And then Charlie, who was his creditor, came and took that same property away. So in that situation, Amrinanle, we'll tell the second creditor, we'll tell Charlie, you're no better than Stan. And so as a result, when I come with my $1,000, I can get that property back from Charlie. However, and these are the next 3 cases are really, especially the next 2 cases are really important. Zabna, if Stan, after he claimed the property from me and seized the property from me, he sells it, or Orsa, or Admeya Be'esrim, he leaves it as an inheritance, Viava Mamatana, or he gives it as a present. That in these situations, the person who took it from Stan, he took it as real land and not as real estate. We are not going to force Stan's heirs or the purchaser from Stan or the person who got it as a gift to sell me back my property for the original price. So as a result, if Stan wants to avoid the harshness of Vasisa Hayashar Vatov, then all Stan has to do is either give it away or sell the property. It's only if he continues to hold the property that it will apply. And essentially, this is a penalty where if, in fact, the high bidder because what happens in the property, just as a reminder, is that after Stan has taken me to court and I am told that I owe Stan the money, I have 90 days to gather that money together. After that, the court will issue a decree that allows Stan to find my property. And then when Stan finds my property, he'll go to court and they'll give him the right to sell the property or to sell the property at a public auction. And then we'll have a 30-day announcement period, and then there will be an auction. And after all of that, we're assuming that Stan won the bid. So that's the situation that we're talking about in all of these cases. And so or we're talking about a case where I just gave Stan and we avoided court completely. But we'll see about that in a moment. All right. So Shamulola Isha.
So the person can't, so the original debtor can't get his property back then if he comes up with the money?
Yep. And if in fact I come up with the money and Stan has already sold you the property, I'm out of luck. It's too late. I have to come up with the money before Stan sells you the property, Ken.
What was the statement for Hilchata the Olam? You can Hadar Bey, right?
Yes, exactly. As long as it's in Stan's hands, I have the right to claim it back. So if Stan holds it for 5 years, I can come back in 5 years and say, "Oh, I collected the money. Now, give me my land back."
And what's the case with the Yorshim and the other one?
It's where the property's no longer in Stan's hands. Either Stan sold it, or he gave it as a gift, or it went to his heirs. In all of those situations, it's not in Stan's hands, and so as a result, I don't have the ability to claim it in that situation. So, what's another situation where somebody won't have the ability to claim it? Well, it's not quite, but in any event, but it's close enough. So, Shamula Leisha in Siba. What happens if the property was seized away from a woman and I'm sorry, it was seized by a woman, and then she gets married. So now her husband, right? The property becomes nichse malog. The husband has the rights to all the benefits associated with it. It's effectively like it's his. Oh, shama mina de isha insiba. Or what happens if she had property taken from her and then she married? Does the husband, again, the husband gets her in property rights? Does he get her property rights to pay, come up with the cash and get the real estate back? Umesa. And now she dies. Baal benichse ishto lokeachavi. When it comes to the husband, he's like a purchaser. He has essentially purchased the property of the milog, the lo mehadar. And so as a result, if the creditor who lost the property to the debtor who lost the property to the wife comes up with the cash and now wants to buy it back, too late. It's as if the husband bought it from his wife. And if the husband now wants to get back the property, the fact that his wife has died, it makes it too late for him. Lo mahadrin and lay. We're not going to return it to him either. So that's the case. And to Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, because we have Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina said, "Be'usha hitkinu." They made a takana in Usha. If a woman is desperate for money and she sells her nichse malog property, again, this is property that she will be returned to her if the marriage ends, and so as a result, she gets the upside and the downside associated with this property. She has the ability to sell the contingent right to the property. And so what if she sells it, but then Umesa, and then she dies? So effectively, the contingency has not come about. And so as a result, the purchaser is going to may get nothing. Habal motzim miyada lekukos. We say that the husband takes away the property from the possession of the purchasers. He's considered like a purchaser, and he took it before them. They only got the right of the nechasim for after the marriage ended, meaning either the husband died or the wife divorced him. So only in those situations, and the important thing, he's not like an heir. And so as a result, it's going to be a different kind of situation. And therefore, that's why we're going to treat this property as if it was as if he purchased it, and therefore when a creditor now either tries to when he tries to claim it from a creditor, or a debtor tries to take it back from him, it's too late. It's as if he's already bought the property. Last case. So
that's a case where he can come and collect it?
No, cannot. That case is also a no connecting, no collection.
But she died.
Exactly.
She sold it.
What? She sold it. Well, again, there are two things. There's the decree of Usha, in which the husband gets the property back from the person who bought it from the woman. That is the decree of Usha. Okay, so that is the rule. That rule tells us and shows us that the husband has priority rights over any purchaser from the woman, from the wife. And that shows that the husband is like a purchaser. And so as a result, if in the case of a woman, it was a creditor, and she takes the property away from Stan, who owed her money, and now she got married, and then she dies, and now Stan has the money and wants to try and get his property back from her husband, the widower, he is going to fail, because the husband is like a purchaser, which is what we learned from the Takanas of Usha. So again, so that's the point. There are two different rules that we're talking about here. One is a case where the property gets seized either by the woman or from the woman, and in those situations, the husband has no right to to get the property back, and a debtor has no right to take away the property from the husband. And there's the separate situation that's dealt with in Usha, where the wife sells the Milog property. And there we say that the husband has the right to get it back. So there are two different situations, and those two different situations have very different outcomes. Because in the situation where the wife sells the property, the husband is viewed as if he's a prior purchaser. And so as a result, he gets the property. But in the situation where it was seized, right, there the husband is viewed as the purchaser. And so as a result, as a purchaser, he doesn't have the ability to take it away from anybody else, and nobody has the ability to take it away from him.
But if she sells it to somebody else, the Nichse Malug, then that person is the purchaser. So why should the husband have rights to take it back from him? And she dies.
That's the Takana of Usha. That's the Takana that they made. They made a decree that the wife doesn't have the ability to sell it. That in fact we're going to treat it as if the husband has priority rights, and as if the husband was a prior purchaser. That's exactly right. That's why it's a takana. Okay.
But if she were to sell it and he dies, then
it's a valid sale. Okay. So Agbe Ihu B'chovo. Now what happens? Fourth case is if the debtor gives it to the creditor. So Pligi Ravacha Ravina. So Ravacha and Ravina argue about it. Chadam or Hadra, or Chadam or Lo Hadra. One says it has to be returned if the debtor comes up with the money, and one says it does not. So Mandam or Lo Hadra, the one who says that it doesn't have to be returned, Savar Hai Zvine Ma'alyahi. This is really just a sale, and therefore there's not going to be any obligation to give it back. Because at the end of the day, the debtor gave it on his own. And so it's as if it's a real sale. Whereas the one who says that it needs to be given back, then it's not a real sale. That which he gave it voluntarily, and didn't go to court, it was all because he didn't want to be embarrassed by being taken to court and owing money. And so as a result, although actually it seems like the halacha is like the opinion that says low hadrale, that you don't take it back. There's a great, I'm very sympathetic to the latter opinion, but it seems like we're narrowing the principle, narrowing the situations where we say that you should do what's right and good. Okay, so that brings us, last little point. Now, how long, when does the person who is the creditor who's seizing the property, when does he have the right to say to the person who's on the property, hey, don't eat my apples? So when does the creditor have the right to the produce? So Rabba Amar Mikimacha Adrachta Liade. As soon as the court gives the document to seize the property to the creditor, that's when he gets it. Abaye Amar Eda B'chasuma Zachin. No, it's even before that. As soon as the witnesses sign their names on the seizure document, that the person gets it. And Rabba Amar Miki Shalimu Yemei Achrazta. That no, it's later. It's only at the end of the process, once we've announced the sale and the sale process is ready to begin, then as we begin the auction, that's when the person can't take the person who's on the property now can't take any fruit from that property. Okay.
Well, why is there halachic difference, if I understood this right, between matana and mechira? When if a person
No,
gives
no,
it
there's
to
no difference
someone,
between a matana and mechira.
so if he gives it to someone, he also can't take it back, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly what we said. We said three cases can't be. The first situation was the first bullet point here. It's the second bullet point. Excuse me. If the creditor sells the property or leaves it as an inheritance or gives it as a present, then the acquired land can and not money. So the original owner cannot take it back. Okay, so that's the point. All right. I'm sorry. It should say they acquired land and not money. Okay. So that's the point in those situations. So seller and recipient, purchaser and recipient of the gift are identical. Okay, so that brings us to the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah deals with another case of a shomer who may benefit from something that is left with him. Hasocher paramechabero. If you rent a cow from your friend, so we'll say B rents a cow from A. A is the original owner. And now B lends the cow to C. Umesa kedarka, and it dies in its ordinary method, meaning it died a natural death. Yushavah soker shemesa kedarka. The renter swears, so B swears to A that it died in a normal way, and therefore he's not going to be liable. But the borrower C, Yishalem Socher, a borrower is liable for a natural death. So therefore, you can see how the renter can actually make money in that situation by lending the property to C. How B can make money in that situation by lending the property to C. Rabbi Yossi says, well, that doesn't make any sense. How can this person do business with his friend's cow? No, you have to return the cow to its original owner, meaning that the value of the cow would go to the original owner. And indeed, that seems to be the way that we paskin. Okay, so Amar Le Rav Idi Bar Avin La Abaye, we're trying to figure out what's the explanation for the first ruling. How in the world did this renter acquire the cow? Bishvua, you want to tell me that he acquired it with an oath? The name Alei Maskir Lasocher, but why not let the renter tell the owner tell the renter Dal Ant the Dal Shvuasach? I don't need I don't need you or your oath. I'm going to litigate with this borrower. So why not allow him to say that? Meaning, if it's the oath that is what triggers it, let's just skip that process and let A keep his rights. So no, your assumption is incorrect. You thought it was the oath. No, mishas misahu dekani. It's the death that causes the acquisition to happen. Ushvua, and the oath is only kedela hafis daito shel balabayas, in order to appease the owner, so that the owner won't think that the guy was negligent. So Amar Rabbi Zeira, pa'amim shahaba'alim mishalmim kama parot l'soker. Based on what we just said, it seems like you could end up being liable for a bunch of cows where you're the owner and you're going to be liable to the one who rented it from you. Hechidami, what's the case? So pay attention, because this is a little complicated. Agramine meya yome. So I rent the cow from Stan for 100 days. Then Stan comes back to the Hadar Shaila Mine Tishin Yomi, and he says, you know what? I could really use borrowing this cow from you, even though, remember, Stan's the owner, but I've rented it for the next 100 days. So it's as if it's mine for the next 100 days. Now Stan borrows it from me for the next 90 days. So I'm going to only effectively have rented it for days 91 to 100. But then at the 15 minutes later, Stan did whatever he really needed to do with it. Turns out he thought it was going to take him 90 days, but it took him 15 minutes. And now I say to him, you know what? I could really use it for the next 80 days. So let me rent it for 80 days. then you can borrow it back for days 80 to 90 because I lent it to you for days 80 to 90. And then you'll give it back to me as a rented item for days 90 to 100. But I'm going to pay you again for the rental. And then after 20 minutes of my doing whatever I needed to do with the cow, Stan comes back and says, David, would you do me a favor? Would you lend it to me for days 1 to 70? So just to go over the facts. So what the bottom line is that the situation is the A is borrowing the cow for days 1 to 70. Then days 70 to 80, it's rented to B. Then days 80 to 90, it's borrowed by A. At least this is the plan. And days 90 to 100, it's going to be rented back to B. Okay, so that's the situation. But we don't get there because you know what happens? It dies. So again, and now it dies during those first 70 days. So for each borrowing, and Stan has done 2 borrowings in this example, but we could have an infinite number of borrowings. For each of those borrowings, Stan is going to owe me a cow because he was a borrower. The borrower is liable for its natural death. And so as a result, I'm going to make out like a bandit. I rented a cow for 100 days, but I'm going to end up getting paid 2 cow values. So Amr Lay, Rav Acha Medivta Ravina, Michli Chadaparahi, Ayla Va'apka, Apka Mischirus Va'ayla L'She'ila, Apka Mishe'ila Va'ayla L'Schiros. 1 second. It's all one cow. It went from renting and borrowing to renting, but it's one cow. There should only be one liability. Only the last liability should exist. So Amr Lay, Umi Isa Lapara Ba'ini. 1 second. Is the cow still around that we can say that there's one cow? The name Alei Haki that you can say this? Because actually, there could have been, we could pretend as if there were multiple cows. It could be multiple cows that we were talking about. And the same facts would stand. Meaning, if you don't have the cows to show that there wasn't multiple cows here, how do I know that there weren't multiple cows? So maybe, in fact, there should be those multiple liability. So Marbar of Ashi Amar, no. Ein lo alein ela shtei paros. There's really only 2 cows that are going to be owed in this situation. Chada de she'ela, 1 cow associated with the borrowing, and 1 cow associated with the rental. Meaning what? Stan borrowed the cows back from me. So he owes me for the death of the cow that he borrowed. But there's a separate thing that he owes me because I'm supposed to get the cow as a rental from days 70 to 80 and days 90 to 100. So he also owes me a cow for that. So those are the cows that he's going to get. Shum she'elas achasi, because all the borrowings are 1. Shum schirus achasi. And similarly, all the renting is 1. Now, with respect to the cow that you owe me for the borrowing, that I get completely. But when it comes to the owing of the cow for the rental for days 70 to 80 and 90 to 100, so then Stan will let me borrow the cow, and in the end, he will get that cow back. So the bottom line is that I end up having rented a cow for days 70 to 80 and 90 to 100, and for the value of those 2 rentals, I also ended up with a cow. So that is where we end up. And I think that's probably all right. So we'll stop there, and God willing, we'll pick up.
In the end of the day, the cow belongs to the owner. The owner is borrowing his own cow.
That is correct. But if the cow should die, if the object is broken and the rental agreement ends for whatever reason, let the owner of the one who's holding the rental agreement, that is the creditor, I get. Let him just pay back the borrower and say, listen, I'm sorry, you can't, I'll just pay you back the money that you paid me for rental. I'll just pay you back the money, and then everything is done. No, because the point is that you rented, well, you'll be the renter. You rented the cow. I then come and borrow it back from you, right? First of all, let's just do the example again in our Mishnah, right? Again, but the bottom line is it's all followed the first opinion in our Mishnah. So it may be that the halacha is not like this, right? Remember that I'm pretty sure that the halacha is that we don't allow the renter to do business with the other person's cow. But if I were to, according to the Tanakama, which is what we're really dealing with here, according to the Tanakama, if you rent it from me and you lend it to Charlie, and now the cow dies in Charlie's possession of natural causes, Charlie owes you a full cow. All right. So now let's switch it. Instead of lending it to Charlie, you lend it back to me, which of course you're able to do. Well, in that situation, now if it dies in my possession, why am I any different than Charlie? I would owe you a full cow. So that's who.
Well, it is a little different because it's the creditor's cow in the first place. I mean, so he lost his own cow. He was supposed to get his cow back, but he lost the cow. His cow died in transit and getting there. It's his cow, so why doesn't he suffer that loss to some degree?
But remember, in the Mishnah's case, it's the exact same outcome, right? In the Mishnah's case, you rent it from me, you lend it to Charlie. I end up with nothing because you swear that it died of natural causes, and Charlie ends up owing you the value of the cow. Again, this is all according to the Tanakama. And in the end, it looks like we paskin like Rabbi Yossi. So it's not but it's not the way we paskin. But again, in that situation, you end up with the money, I end up with nothing. And similarly, now, if I rent you the cow and you lend it back to me and it dies while it's in my possession as a borrowed cow because I'm borrowing it from you because you have full rights to it during these days that you rented it. So now that it died in my possession and I'm a borrower, I'm liable to you for the value of the cow. That's part of the deal that I make. Whenever you make a deal to borrow something, even if it was yours, if the person who's holding it was the renter, according to the Tanakama of our Mishnah, I would be, the borrower is going to be liable, even if that borrower is the original.
In many cases, the Gemara says Shani Hasam, or whatever. So Shani Atam. So in this case, there is a difference because the cow was originally mine. I hear what you're saying, but I'm borrowing back my own cow.
I understand, but at this moment, the cow doesn't belong to you. The cow belongs to the person who rented it. That's exactly right. This is an example of highlighting the power of rental.
All right.
That again, it's not clear that the halacha is like this. The halacha is probably like Rabbi Yossi, and so as a result, at least that's what it seems like. And so as a result, the halacha is not. The fact is that you're exactly right. What you're essentially outlining is the fundamentals of the machlokas in our Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi is like exactly what you're saying now. How could you possibly say that this case, we should treat the original owner so badly and allow this person who rented it to effectively profit on an animal that doesn't belong to him? Doesn't make any sense. So, and that's exactly what you're saying. And Rabbi Yossi, the halacha seems to actually be like Rabbi Yossi. So we'll pick up from there to discuss.
I don't understand this. So I rent you my cow, and then you let me use it for a bed. You've already rented it. To rent it a second time makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, remember, I borrowed it back.
You've already established yourself as the renter of the cow.
Correct, but I borrowed it back for the next 90 days, and you let me borrow it for free for the next 90 days. So now it's back to being my cow. And now, it's back to being my cow, but it's only for these 90 days, and I have the liabilities associated with being a borrower. And so now,
but as you just said, it's not really my cow because you have a rental contract with me that you have presumably paid for and made an opinion on or something or other.
Correct.
I mean, the second rental just doesn't make sense. Well, so let me give you another example. Let's say I have an apartment, I rent it to you, and then you let me live there for a few days.
Yep.
I can't rent it to you for a second time.
Yes, you can. Because what if I don't just give it to you for a few days? Remember, in this case, I'm letting you live there for the rest of this month. And now it turns out that I need it for an overnight stay. And so, but I lent it to you for the rest of this month. And so as a result, if I need it for that rent for the stay, you're going to say to me, listen, I borrowed it. I need if I now have to go out. It was great that you lent it to me. You were very kind to do so. But now, if I need to go and find another place to live for that night, I need you to rent it from me. And so I end up renting it from you a second time. I've rented you the entire period. And now, because I was so kind to lend it to you, I rented again for the one day that I needed it as well. Those are two different rental contracts. And as a result, I have to end up paying you two. It's clear that that's the intention of the Gemara.
Yeah, but if the house burns down, I don't owe you two houses.
Well, if the house burns down, if you're not if you didn't do anything liable, so you would owe me nothing. Indeed, if I were liable, if I were a degree of negligence while it was in my house, I would owe you on some level the right to I certainly owe you at least a place to live for the rental periods that you still held on to.
I doubt any insurance company is going to pay double for a house that burns down.
100%, and that's why it's. I mean, it's fairly clear that despite the Gemara that we've gone through, that the halakha is like Rabbi Yossi,
Yeah.
and all of this is just a theoretical discussion within the position of the Tanakama.
So not so much for movable property, but this gets into the issue of for real estate, the issue of the legality of sublets.
Yes, well, that is part of the topics that we're going to be talking about. And indeed, as part of that framework, the next topic that we're going to be talking about is these two people. We have a borrower and a lender relationship together. What kind of oath do they have to make? And what kind of karbanot will they have to bring if those oaths turn out to be false? And the nature of those two oaths can be very different, even though they're swearing effectively about the same thing. But again, for that, you'll have to stay tuned for tomorrow's daf.
Yep. Thank you. Yasher Kog.
All right, Brooks, we out.
Can I have one quick question about the earlier discussion? When we talked about the woman and the man and she sold it and so forth, the three cases where selling Yorshim and Matana.
Yep.
What if the what if the property was stolen? We learned that in Bava. In that case, that original person would be able to claim it, right? The owner.
Yes, we did not. I would think that the original owner would still have the right to get it back. If the property were stolen, then I would think that the original owner, the debtor, would be able to come up with the cash and give it to the creditor and say, I want my property back when you get it back from the thieves. Yes.
Or maybe he could pursue the thief himself and get it back.
Correct.
Through Beit Din or whatever, right?
Correct. I think that that's a likely halacha. All right. Great to learn together with you. Wonderful to go over additional questions. Looking forward to continuing, God willing, tomorrow.